There's a memory you've probably never told anyone about. Or maybe you've never fully let yourself remember it. You were small. Something hurt, maybe deeply, maybe in a way you couldn't even name yet, and you cried. The way children are supposed to cry, openly, honestly, without armor, without thinking about how it looks, without trying to control it. And then someone whose voice carried more weight than anything in your world, looked at you and said it. Stop crying. You're being too sensitive. Toughen up. There's nothing to cry about. And in that moment, something shifted. And here's the part that nobody talks about. You stopped. Not because the pain stopped, but because you learned instantly that your pain was a problem, that your feelings were an inconvenience, that the way you were raw and open and real was somehow too much. You didn't know it then. But that moment didn't just quiet you for the afternoon. It trained you. It followed you into every relationship you've ever had, into every moment you swallowed something that deserved to be said, into every time you sat alone in the dark, telling yourself you're fine, while feeling nothing at all. This video is about that moment, and about everything it quietly built inside you. Let me tell you about a child named Maya. Maya was 7 years old, bright-eyed, expressive, loud in the way that only genuinely happy children can be. She felt everything intensely. Joy, fear, love, disappointment, all of it, vivid and overwhelming inside her small chest. One afternoon, Maya's best friend told her she didn't want to be friends anymore. No warning, no explanation, just over. For a child, that's not small. That's everything. Maya came home crying. The kind of crying where your whole body shakes and your breath breaks between sobs. The kind of crying that is completely honest, completely natural, completely valid. Her father looked up from the table. Maya, stop. It's not a big deal. You'll make new friends. Go wash your face. He didn't mean harm, but impact doesn't wait for intention. She stood there for a moment, tears still falling, looking at him, waiting maybe for something softer, something that said, I see you. It didn't come. So she went upstairs, washed her face, sat on the edge of her bed, and learned how to stop. Not how to feel better, not how to understand what happened, not how to process a real loss. She learned how to hide it, how to press it down somewhere deep, how to replace truth with control, how to become easier to be around. Maya got very good at this. By the time she was 16, people called her chill. By 23, her partners called her emotionally unavailable. By 30, she sat in a therapist's office and said the words that so many people have said before her. I don't know why I can't cry, even when I want to. Even when something is genuinely terrible, I just feel nothing. The therapist nodded. When did you learn that crying was not allowed? Maya opened her mouth to say she didn't know, but her body did. And then it came back. Her father's face, the table, the quiet room, the afternoon light, her best friend. The 7-year-old girl on the edge of the bed, learning how to disappear. She hadn't forgotten. She had just buried it so deeply that it felt like it never existed. Here's what was actually happening inside Maya that afternoon. And inside you, if any of this feels familiar, when a child cries and someone responds, truly responds, something powerful happens in the brain. The nervous system learns a fundamental truth. Feelings are safe. They rise, they stay, they pass. You can feel something overwhelming and still be okay. And more importantly, you are not alone in it. This is how emotional regulation is built. Not by stopping feelings, but by being supported through them. But when the opposite happens, when feelings are dismissed, ignored, rushed, or shut down, the brain learns something else. It learns. This feeling is dangerous. It learns. To feel is to be a burden. It learns. Safety means silence. And here's the part most people miss. The brain doesn't forget that lesson. It automates it. It builds a system, a quiet, invisible system designed to catch emotions before they surface, to shut down sadness before it becomes tears, to turn grief into numbness. to translate I'm hurting into I'm fine. It does this to protect you, because once, a long time ago, feeling out loud wasn't safe. The problem is, that moment is gone, but the system is still running. Think about your life for a second. The last time something truly hurt, a loss, a rejection, a disappointment that stayed longer than it should have. Did you cry? Or did something inside you step in? Something automatic. Something that said, not here, not now, not ever. Maybe your chest tightened and then went quiet. Maybe you laughed about something that actually broke you. Maybe you watched someone else cry freely at a movie, at a goodbye, at a song, and felt something strange. Not just empathy, not just confusion, but a quiet kind of grief for a version of yourself that used to be able to do that. If that feels familiar, stay here, because this part matters. The child who was told to stop crying didn't just lose the ability to cry. They lost their signal system. Emotions aren't just feelings. They are information. Sadness says something mattered. Anger says a boundary was crossed. Fear says pay attention. Grief says this loss is real. When you suppress the emotion, you don't just lose the feeling, you lose the message. You stop knowing what's happening inside you. You move through life slightly disconnected, slightly numb, slightly off, and you can't explain why. That's why so many people say, I don't know what I feel. I know something is wrong, but I can't explain it. I think something is wrong with me, but there isn't. Nothing is wrong with you. The system was interrupted. That's all. And here's the part that's difficult to hold. Most of the people who told you to stop crying were taught the same thing. They weren't always trying to hurt you. They were repeating what they knew. A quiet inheritance, passed down through generations. Not through cruelty, but through lack. They believed they were helping you. They believed strength meant silence. They believed not crying meant being okay, because no one ever showed them otherwise. Your parents, in many cases, gave you what they had, and what they had was incomplete. You're allowed to feel something about that. You don't have to excuse it to understand it. But understanding it changes something important, because it stops being proof that you were too much, and starts becoming proof that something was missing. You were never too sensitive. You were a child who needed someone to stay, and they couldn't. Now here's what matters now. The coping skill that saved you back then is the same thing limiting you now. The shutdown, the numbness, the I'm fine. It worked. It protected you. It helped you survive. You were smart to build it, but you are not that child anymore. The danger is no longer the same, but the response still is. And now, that protection has become a wall. Between you and connection, between you and intimacy, between you and yourself. And that's not your failure. That's just what happens when survival patterns outlive the situation they were built for. So what do you do with this? Not everything at once. Not all at once. You don't need to force yourself to cry. You don't need to go back and relive everything. You don't need to fix your entire past. You just need to pause once. Notice something before it disappears. A feeling, a reaction, a moment. And instead of pushing it away, let it stay. Just for a second. Just long enough to say, I feel something. That's where it starts. Because somewhere inside you, that child is still there. Sitting on the edge of the bed, quiet, still, careful. Doing everything they can to not be too much. They survived. But they've been waiting for someone to come back and say what they needed to hear. It's okay. You don't have to stop. You're allowed to feel this. I'm here. And maybe the person who finally says that to you is you.